How are you? It's so nice. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. It's been wonderful, and I've been following all your lovely, posts and articles, and for all our audience here, it's the wonderful Inderjit Singh. For somehow, I'm actually quite privileged. We became some form of friends because of our mutual interest as such in humanity. I find your articles so humbling, and I've watched many of your podcasts as well, where you have been a guest. So it's been an honor actually talking to you. You're leading at the moment the Canadian Aviation, and you was head of New Delhi Aviation as well. Is that right?
And I was. Currently, I'm with International Civil Aviation Organization, which is a specialized agency in the United Nations system of organizations, and we have our headquarters in Montreal, in Canada. But we as experts, or whatever you may like to call us, we are assigned to different parts of the world. Wherever there is a request for a major development in the field of aviation, be it airports, airlines, everything comes into civil aviation. And I've been fortunate enough to have served them for a few years now. And that has taken me to different parts of the world. So that's exactly what I enjoy the most of my association with United Nations. Yeah, because
that is wonderful to hear. I mean, the good thing about that is what comes on the top. You're so passionate about how you actually create your environment as well. So you're not just a leader as such on the position what you do. You're also very humbling. You're a humble human being, and that's so beautiful to see, because it just makes it even greater and more wonderful and more lovely, because everyone would like to be in your presence. And when I was reading all your articles about how you express yourself and how you even identify yourself as a child of the world rather than a country or culture, I think it's so rare nowadays, because I can relate to that. Many people identify themselves as one thing. They identify themselves as one culture, one race, one country, wherever they come from. But not many people come outside of the box, step outside of the box, and look at us as human beings. And I think that is missing today in today's society so much, which needs to be portrayed more in general, that we are born as human beings. I mean, look back in history, Adam and Eve, these were two human beings. They were not human beings of a certain country, of a certain culture, of a certain color, whatever you want to call it. They were just human beings. And people do forget, but that's a natural thing again. We're coming back to tribal identity as such, that we need to belong somewhere, and we're just too afraid to come out. And it takes very few people who actually identify these things and understand who we really are.
Yes. I'm so delighted, Shafaq, you started this discussion with a beautiful word, the human being. I don't want to sound a little different, but what I feel about being human, you see, there is one thing of being human with a spiritual inclination. Okay, I feel that one has to be a spiritual being with humanity inclination. Basically, first and foremost, let's say we are all born spiritual. I mean, I'm not assigning any name, God or religion and all. I think we should see beyond.
Right.
What is of most interest is belonging to the humanity. And it is probably the circumstances in my life brought me to think that way. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to have a little chat like this. And psychshafaq is a very, very popular name around the world now, I would say, because you interviewed Charlie, Dr. Charlie the other day, and he's a good friend, and I was so fascinated. And while I was watching, thought if I could make it to meet you, face to face and have a chat. And you see, sometimes with good intention, you think of it and you get it. So that's why my strong feeling is you are what your thoughts are. That's something which is always stuck into my mind, that if I think something and I look forward it very dearly, it would manifest. It's just a matter of time, and you have to have patience. Yesterday, I was sharing I was just having a word with my friend in UK. I'll tell you about this book which is being launched on the 30th. And I happen to be contributing, I have contributed a chapter, which apparently is the first chapter in that book. I'll tell you a little more about it. But when I mentioned to him, he said, so it's Friday, Saturday, are you going to play golf? I said, no, I have a date with Shafaq. So he said, oh, the glamorous Shafaq. So I liked it so much. I said, no, it's glamorous, but it is. She's a hardcore professional, and I know I read about all your achievements in life. Being a diplomat, that is important, number one. But that you do for existing, not for living. For living, I think you have other passions, because I also feel that somebody asked me, what do you do for a living? So I say, I play golf, I listen to music, I go around the world watching places. He says, no, what I meant was, what do you earn? I said, well, oh, that is work, that's existing.
Yeah.
You don't, of course, work is very important. Like you said in the very beginning, that if you're fond of your work, you will be a good human being, which I also subscribe to that fact. But existing and living are two different things.
That's right.
We all exist, but how many of us live? And I think you are an epitome in that way, because you are excellent in neurosciences, and you are great in emotional intelligence, and all other activities, speaking, podcasting, and all that put together makes you a complete human being. And I think that is a human being is like it's a organism, it's a growing kind of an organism. So every moment we are adding to our knowledge, our experience. I think more than knowledge, it's the experience that you come across when we meet each other. So I'm delighted to be on your show, and now ask me as many questions as you want. I know you are a great mind reader, but I would speak from my heart. I have no notes prepared. I have no agenda. I will speak from my heart to the whatever I can give you as a response. The whole idea of a chat like this is that we speak from heart to heart.
That's right.
I like to know a lot more about you, and you're most welcome to dissect me and see whatever I am. Okay.
I will certainly do. Thank you so much. It's really humbling to hear what you just said. It's so nice, actually, because when you're being yourself, and it took me a long time actually to get to that point. Not just to get to that point. I think there's some elements which have to be already in you to develop it further in general, because and I understood now over the years, just recently actually, that all the things which I was doing, why I was doing them, and why people have been kind of a magnet towards me as well, and sometimes quite unpleasant people, is because I am a natural empath. I can't help myself being a natural empath. That's just something which is in my bones, which is in my blood as such. And unless I understand these things, who I am and what it actually means, I wouldn't be able to make sense of that, make sense of my experiences, make sense of my environment, make sense of the people who I meet or who actually come across to me. And that took me many, many years to understand, where recently doing also a psychology degree and getting this academic knowledge about these things suddenly just created a light bulb moment for me, where everything started from all these years coming from a very difficult childhood. I don't know if you've seen that in some of my posts. I talk very openly about that because I think you have to embrace your experiences. They are part of your life. You cannot dismiss them, because as soon you start dismissing them, you're actually failing your identity, you're denying your identity. It's somebody who you are, and I'm actually quite grateful to whoever is up there, and you said it so beautifully. God is a name.
Yes.
Is what is in our heart, is what we believe. And it's all united because we come from a very similar source. And, you know, we are genetically connected to each other. That's the beauty about that. We're not different as such. We are different as individuals, yes, but we're not different as human beings. And that's what people are forgetting. And once you develop these things and develop this understanding about yourself, you start feeling comfortable. And regardless of the situation you're in, even if you're still going through difficulties, once you become comfortable within yourself, and that is part of emotional intelligence, which you're a great expert in, you just start acting different. You have a very different aura about you. You present yourself differently. And that's not even putting up an act. That's just being who you are. And that is the beauty about that. Once you understand who you are, everyone will actually start recognizing these things. Not just recognizing, but I think what I've noticed in general is that now, since I've started understanding, I have also become quite, I wouldn't say selective as such, but you just become more mindful of who is actually approaching you too. So you want people who are like-minded around you, like yourself. You've got such a wonderful aura. And then other people who may be needy, for instance, I would call them, you know, my two relationships, which I speak very openly about that, without actually degrading these people in general. But I have gone through psychopathic abuse. I have gone through narcissistic abuse. I have gone through childhood abuse. But these are different personalities and events in my life which I have embraced now, because I can now understand humanity better. When I'm helping my clients, I can understand a lot of situations, a lot of their thought process, because I have come through various experiences. And it has made me a kind of much more enriched person, which I'm really, truly grateful to. That all these experiences have actually created something beautiful, where I can help other people, where I can, you know, create changes. And then being quite confident within my skin as well as such, I think that just makes it easier for somebody else actually to trust you. Because if you're not comfortable within your skin, and I said that to David Galvin as well, who was one of my first podcasts. I was a guest with him at his podcast, and it was funny enough. He's a survivalist from America, from the States. They call themselves, he's part of a group who call themselves preppers. And I don't know if you're aware of that, possibly in Canada as well. It's not the extreme group, he emphasized that. He is one of them who prepares for the unknown, for any disaster. And he was going through my social media accounts and said, I want you to interview you. You're a psychologist, I want to interview you. And I felt quite honored about that. And once he interviewed me, he asked me a lot of questions about how would you act in a crisis situation, for instance. You know, there's a lot of dead bodies out there. You need to save your family. How would you come out of that? So I was explaining to him that in that situation, if a person is actually well developed within themselves, it's at balance with our mental well-being, with our physical well-being, with our spiritual well-being. What you do at that moment is, and I can only say that because I have gone through various situations, you can't judge that before it happens, is you put your emotions aside, not that you desensitize your emotions, but you put them aside and you prioritize what is needed at that time.
That's
So
right.
what is needed at that time is you get your family together, you get your most important belongings together, wherever it's your documents, wherever it's, you know, a pack of clothing which you need for a few days, your passport, these kind of things. You get together, you put them in the car, and you drive to the most safest place where you can go. And then you start processing after you have your family safe, you have your loved ones safe. Then you start processing these information or these traumatic events after you have gone through. And that is the important part as well, to process it, because otherwise you start suffering with mental health conditions, for instance, like PTSD, depression, anxiety, or other similar forms. So all these things, as long as you embrace them, and it's a natural process to do, it's okay to act in a certain way, because we're all human beings. It's all about embracing your experiences. It's all about embracing what is happening and accepting them and work with what it is. So I don't find myself as a kind of different human being as such. I just think there's certain people in general who are maybe more capable of doing so because of their past experiences, possibly, and mainly because they're built this way as well. And there's nothing to say that somebody else is maybe weaker or stronger than them. It's just how these people are. And I find myself in a very, very humbling position in that way, that thank God I never had a racist bone in my body, ever. You know, even working, as you beautifully said, we work for living, but once we start enjoying something, that is where the beauty lies. You know, being a diplomat, former diplomat, I had a very high and privileged position. Even the ambassador had to come to me to sign papers or to have my signature. But I've never, and it's a very hierarchical structure, as you can maybe relate to, you know, in your position as well, in your line of work, that people were actually wondering why I would talk to a local wasteman, for instance, exactly in the same way how I would talk to the ambassador. I don't feel no differences. And I came many celebrities and political leaders across during these events and during my line of work in the Foreign Service, where I don't get starstruck because they're just human beings like we are. Why should we treat one or the other any different? Because it comes back to your spiritual beliefs again. If I do something wrong to someone else, I know it's going to come back to me.
Yes, 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 yes. Listening to you and having read a lot about you and having read your posts, I feel that you are a very aware person. You have taken good stock of your past. You don't want to live with that past. You have left it behind, but you have learned lessons from that. And now you have prepared a roadmap for yourself where your objectives are very clear. I think that's most important. You know, I've seen people on the road sometimes going very, very fast, and I wonder, do they know where they are going?
Yeah.
You know, with their phones in hands and looking at messages, and as if life would come to a standstill if they would not see the message for next 5 minutes or 10 minutes. There are certain positions where you have to be alert all the time. But then the universe has its own ways of reminding you what to do, when to do, and how to do.
That's right.
What I gather from our discussion is the underlying important thing is to be aware.
Yeah.
Okay, be yourself. I mean, a lot of people say, what makes a leader? I think because as a leader, you are an influencer. People look upon you, like in your field, people look upon you. Okay, let's see what Shafaq has to say about it. Or in my field, somebody may be thinking that, look, he's heading us. What does he have in his mind? So you kind of become a role model for that moment in time. And unless we are aware of our own selves, we know our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities that would probably come, and we also know the threats around us.
That's
So
right.
we have to take a good stock of all that and then decide what our course of action is to be. And most important thing which I think in my agenda is to be positive.
That's right.
Uh, Corona-wise negative for sure, but generally speaking, positive. Because we have some preconceived notions about people, about circumstances, about situations. Uh, Even before starting a conversation with somebody, people come prepared for a confrontation.
Yeah.
You know, we have met today, or I have met people, you go for meetings and all. I go with an open mind for a good conversation. Okay. And I remind myself that I learn something out of it.
That's right.
Even I may be the project coordinator or leader of the team, but that is by virtue of my experience or expertise and all that they picked on me. I have been on several missions around the world where I have been a project coordinator or the team leader, and sometimes I've been a domain expert. You
Yeah.
know, I go for a particular job, I do it, and I have a superior, a team expert. We may be paid the same amount, we are holding the same status, we are holding laissez-passer or the whatever privileges come, you know, all that as a diplomat. But then for that moment you are there as a leader, so act like a leader. And it is not through books that I have learned all that. You know, if I was to share one experience which I had in Paramaribo, Republic of Suriname,
Yeah.
in South America. I was relatively very young, and it was a Sunday. Generally, the project chiefs don't come to receive domain experts, because in that project there were about 13 domain experts, and he was our head. An elderly gentleman, a very loving, compassionate person, which I came to know a little later. So, being a Sunday, he was probably free, so he came to receive me at the airport. So after a very, very long travel, you know, you go to UK, then to Netherlands, then to Paramaribo, Republic of Suriname. My God, I mean, it was a very, very long flight. So when I landed, I didn't know whether I'm coming or going. But when I received, he came forward and he hugged me, shook hands, and he said, "So I'm sorry, Indy." He used to call me Indy, and he says, "Indy, I have received your credentials, but I'm not sure. Have you worked with the ICAO before, with the International Civil Aviation Organization?" So I suddenly broadened myself, you know, like when we feel elated and all, and I occupied more space which than what I would probably occupy. And I said, yes, of course, this is my third assignment, you know, as if it's a big deal. I mean, I came to know later, I thought it was a big deal that this is my third assignment. So, and I looked at him and I said, what about yourself? He says, son, this is my 33rd assignment. Now imagine I with three assignments in my pocket. Uh, in the hindsight now, I feel that probably he wanted to know whether I am aware of the UN system of functioning, rules, regulations, processes, procedures, and all that. So he doesn't have to explain to me that we are going to provide you with this, we are going to provide with you, not to worry, eat whatever you want, go wherever you want, you know, like all those processes and procedures for my arrival into that new country.
Yeah.
Here I am talking about my three assignments as if it's a big deal. Later on, I realized when in the hindsight now, then I thought, I said, well, my question should have been, yes, I have been in the system, so that he is saved of explaining to me all those finer details which you need as you enter a country, that so much allowance will be there and given you in advance and all. I mean, that is what he had in mind to tell me. And I countered by saying, this is my third assignment. And he had to tell me that it was his 33rd assignment. Now, 33 assignments, later on, I came to know they were 1 month, 2 months, and all that. But that doesn't matter. I mean, how much time you spend in a station and how much you earn is totally different.
That's right.
Important is that 33 times UN thought it fit to pick him up repeatedly.
Yeah.
So now I have many more assignments to my credit, but even if you ask me, I'll not tell you. because I learned my lesson there. So,
Yeah.
this is the fun of interacting with people, going in different countries, and learning what management is all about. I mean, management doesn't start and end with Peter Drucker.
Mm.
That was just learning. Now, how to apply those rules in our day-to-day work or in our day-to-day life is what knowledge is. You see, that was a degree. We got our MBAs or whatever, we earned that degree with hard work. But then how we use them, analyze those degrees, think about the knowledge we have, and then use it as an experience. I mean, that is where the wisdom lies. I mean, learning, knowledge, and wisdom are three different stages. You could be highly learned, you may have lots of knowledge, you may be, but how you critically analyze that learning and knowledge to turn it into wisdom,
That's
which we use in your day-to-day practice. I mean, I'm telling somebody like you, Shafaq, who is you are brilliant in emotional intelligence. But in all humility, I may say so that when I was studying in Oxford, I had gone on a scholarship to Oxford on a Colombo plan. And in the final year, we were asked to pick on an elective subject. So I asked for behavioral sciences, and emotional intelligence was one segment of the behavioral sciences
right.
which we used to study, because at that stage I was the spokesperson of a major uh, airport. So I used to interact with the media a lot. And you know how media is, it can either break you or make you. So here, like we are talking so casually with an open mind, open mind, of course, was there too, but I was cautious, in my words, because there I am representing not only the airport, but I am representing the institution, or, International Civil Aviation Organization. So anything wrongly said inadvertently also can become a big news.
That's
So
right.
I personally feel that emotional intelligence is something which all leaders must have. That makes the difference between a highly regarded professional and a leader.
That's right.
Yes, I mean, professional we all are. I mean, after having gone through 3 times or 33 times, we become professionals by default. When you meet people, you interact with them. Okay. One thing I just wanted to share with you, and I want to recall what has happened only yesterday.
Right.
Uh, there is this beautiful book it's called Tough Road, Create Tough People. And the volume 3 is being launched on the 30th of this month, 30th of June. And the publisher, the editor, and the person who is at the helms of the affair is Lady Anita. Her name is Lady Anita Duckworth Bradshaw. A brilliant person professionally, and a very down-to-earth, humble person. And as luck would have had it, my article probably appeared to her as good. So she put it, she informed me yesterday, and my article is, she said, I'm going to put it as chapter 1 in that book.
Cool.
So I feel good. And another thing I want to express my gratitude is for Judith. This lady, Judith, a good friend now, we started interacting on LinkedIn. She is one of the top-notch painters living in Switzerland, highly accomplished, and she does paintings in wine and soil.
Oh,
I mean,
right.
the media, like you have oil, you have water. Judith uses wine and the soil from that place, wherever, and then she creates paintings. And I sought her permission to use 3 or 4 of her paintings, which substantiated what I wanted to convey.
Right.
I'm very fond of butterfly, for instance, and
Yeah.
not as an insect, as a bird or whatever you may call it, but as the concept behind it, the metamorphosis.
Yeah.
How a caterpillar, when is about to die, transforms itself into a beautiful, an ugly caterpillar
Yeah.
transforms into a beautiful butterfly.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I think about it, I said, why can't we all do that? When we are depressed, something goes wrong. Like you said, you have gone through a lot of trauma, and I'm aware of it to some extent, but I think a lot of people would like to know in a nutshell what you have gone through. But you have evolved out of it.
Yeah.
You have turned into a beautiful butterfly rather than remaining as a caterpillar.
Yeah.
And a caterpillar could also jump and commit suicide, but he waits and turns into a butterfly.
Yeah.
And if you allow me, I have a nice background to this butterfly. Okay. When I was on a scholarship to Berkeley in California, I was reasonably good. I was very young, so I was reasonably good to look at. And I
You
was
feel
also,
very well.
I know, now
You're still very handsome.
this is called manipulation, which I will discuss. I wanted you to say that, so I deliberately cornered you to say that, no, Indy, you're still handsome. Okay, I was.
It's part of my work anyway. I motivate people to
Then
be the best self.
we should have met then. Okay. Now anyway, we have met now, better late than never. So there was this lovely girl called Jessica, and she was Miss Austria. So you can imagine, Miss Austria, living in Honolulu because the parents had moved to Honolulu, and she had come to Berkeley to study medicine.
Right.
And I was doing aviation. I was specializing in aviation. So she was somehow inclined to meet me, interact with me. And I thought it's one of those things, like I'm new, I'm from Africa, I'm a little different, I'm brown, she is white, maybe she finds my skin very intriguing. And also, since I was very good in my studies, she used to take my notes. So I thought it was possibly something like that. And I didn't know what was brewing behind the scene. So to cut the story short, she was much sought after by everybody. I mean, everybody would love to even say hello to her while she would come and sit and chat with me in the canteen or in the library. So one day, after a few months, about 8 to 9 months of our stay in Berkeley, she just mentioned, she says, India, I care for you so much. She was not the complaining sort at all. I mean, knowing how beautiful heart she had and the face she had. So she just said that, I go out of the way to do things for you, and, you never said anything. So I said, you are very special. There's no doubt about it. You are the most sought after person. And now I was so much flattered by a girl telling me that, I like you, and I like you for more than your notes or, whatever your looks, etc. Then I asked her, I'll cut the story short. I asked her, I said, okay, now Jessica, now that I have told you that, yes, I do like you, but I had certain inhibitions, which we all have at that certain stage in your life. Today, maybe I have shed those inhibitions. I said, what if I was to tell her that I like you very much? And she may just say, well, why are you going beyond that? Because, you come from a strange country. You have come to a totally new environment from Africa to United States of America. And I have all the wherewithals to take you around because, whatever we used to get a scholarship or I used to get from parents, we used to spend on wine or, on movies and all. They would not keep it for aftershave lotions and all. She would provide me all that. Then she would, in her own car, take me around, show the countryside and all that. I did East Coast to West Coast on her caravan. So she said, you know what? I asked her, I said, why do you like me? She says, I'm a butterfly. So my association dates back to her telling that she's a butterfly. Now, I was stupid like I am today. So I said, but I don't understand what is butterfly. She said, she brought her notebook out. There was a little butterfly in the corner of the notebook. Then she had a handkerchief. There was a little butterfly in the handkerchief. Then on her shades, the glasses, there was a little butterfly in the corner.
Right.
So I thought she's too enamored or fascinated by this butterfly. She said, listen, when you are sitting in a garden on a bench in a nice sunny day, I will come and sit on your shoulder. But if you chase me, if you run after me, I will never come
Yeah.
You can never reach me. And then she waved at all those boys who were sitting there, my own class fellows. She says, all these crazy people were running after me. You never ran after me. I noticed you used to look at me admiringly, you know, when men talk admiringly. So she said, I used to see looking at me, but in a very nice way, unlike others. And she qualified by saying that, which was true, which
Yeah.
was true. I used to cherish her as a lovely friend, and also a little kick inside me that, you know, Miss Australia likes me, you know, that kind of a kick you get when you're very, very young. And she said, that's the reason, because you never chased me, you never ran after me. I just, you know, this is what I wanted all my life, that I should give a kind of an approval, a silent approval. And now she says, now is the limit. But I said, now it's rather late because we are almost at the point of packing up and going to our respective countries. And it all ended so beautifully, but a great lesson to learn.
Yeah.
So, you know, like one lesson which I learned in Paramaribo from that gentleman who said 33 vis-a-vis 3, that never talk too much about yourself unless it's necessary. You know, today we want to know each other. We want that, you know, you tell me what your feelings are. I tell you what I have gone through and how I have learned these lessons. These butterfly lessons I will never find in Peter Drucker's book. I'll probably not find it anywhere else. And I want to share one small clip which I saw last night when you talked of humility. That again touched my heart very much. You told probably in the beginning that you're very humble, or whatever word you used for it, but you conveyed that. Yesterday I saw a clip where Barack Obama is, and I would love you to see that too. Barack Obama is entering 10 Downing Street with the Prime Minister inside. And Barack Obama extends his hand to the guard who is standing at the gate, because the guard just inadvertently, or I don't know, just on an impulse, stretched his hand. He grabbed it, shook it, smiled at him, and probably asked, how are you doing, or whatever. And then he enters the 10 Downing Street house. Then the Prime Minister looks at the guard, and it's all silent, but you could see the expressions. He was probably scolding that, how dare you extend your hand to the President of United States. Now see the difference between the two. I mean, a humble man vis-a-vis, I won't say arrogant because I'm not sitting on anybody's judgment, but probably he thought that this is not the protocol. Okay, we all go by protocols, that a guard extending his hands to the president. But maybe it was the president's personality or his aura, as you mentioned at the beginning, that he could not help it but extend his hands. And look at Obama shaking hands and then entering. So, you know, these are the things which will touch on this little gesture of President Obama would live with me all my life. I will never, ever forget that you may be whatever. You may be the president or you may be a guard. But at human to human level, we are the same. I go by what exactly you said in the beginning. Our colors may be different, white skin, yellow skin, brown skin, dark skin, but beyond the skin, we are all the same. I mean, blood color is the same. There are different groups in blood, but the color, I've never seen a yellow color or a brown color or a green color, no. So this is what is humanity all about. This is what I rate as a human being.
And you have
Your
said it
turn.
so
Your turn.
beautifully.
enough of me. I think before
Oh
you
no,
say
it's
now,
about
shut
you.
up.
It's my show, but you we were speaking about you, so I didn't want you to take your show. You've actually said it so beautifully, and I can resonate to that, even to that story which you spoken so beautifully about that lady. And I agree with you to extent where you don't disclose too much of your life. And as you said, many people only know the surface of that on my life as well. They don't actually know the extent, the actual detail about that. And the reason why I don't talk about exactly all my details about it, because I think it's not necessary. as long as I can relate to somebody else, I can understand somebody else's perspective through my own experiences, that's enough. Nobody needs to know the exact details about things which are exactly happening, because I don't want to degrade that other person either. Everyone lives how they live, how they decide to live, and they have to face their own consequences. And then by me actually shaming the other person in such intricate detail, it wouldn't make me a better person. I just have to embrace these things, and I have to move forward, and I have to try to make changes in somebody else's life where I'm spotting these signs, for instance, you know, and try to explain to them. So that's why it comes about. And the butterfly effect is so beautifully actually explained, and it's lovely to hear that actually, because many people, I'm assuming, can resonate to that, who have gone through that or similar things, and then come out of the other end and just be free, you know, just thrive as such, and just feel they can, suddenly everything just makes sense. And that's why the beauty comes about on these things. And humility and being human and being humble is one of those things. I just think in general, what people forget, and you said it so beautifully, we are very similar inside of us. The skin color itself has actually biological reasons. It has geographically reasons, what people don't understand. If we had it in olden times, I mean, it's different now in this infrastructure, because we have houses, we have facilities, we have sunshades, we have aviation, we have all these kind of modern technologies in place which can safeguard us from various extreme weathers, various, you know, sun, whatever you want to call it. But in those times, in the olden times, if we didn't adjust, it's the same with animals as well. If we didn't adjust to our environment automatically, biologically, then we wouldn't be able to survive. It's a part of survival. You know, in the northern part, the skin color is very, very light, because they have to adjust to their environment. A dark skin color wouldn't, biologically, it wouldn't be able to sustain from those times, not modern times, but from those times, it wouldn't be able to sustain, because it would be very visible to animals like bears and wolves, so on. They wouldn't be able to just merge and camouflage into that white, icy environment as such. Sure. Where if we go to Africa, for instance, it's very, very different. We have to have a darker color there. First of all, the sun is very strong anyway, which gives you a stronger tone, skin tone. But then we can merge and we can camouflage into our environment. We can cope with the extreme weather in a better way. It's less disease prone, it's less skin cancer prone. All these kind of elements make sense. Yes. Our body works different. So people don't actually understand that these things have biological reasons. Yes. They don't just exist because God wanted to punish the one or the other. Who's to say that white skin is better than dark skin, or than yellow skin, than brown skin? No one can say that, because you don't actually understand where it comes from. It has reasons why we are made this way. And on the other side, I said it to one of my guests as well, if we were all the same in general, taking out the biological reasons, yes, the geographical reasons, yes, how boring the life would be.
Absolutely. This is what exactly I wanted from you. Without going into the logic of the temperature and all that why should we even be on defensive of having a dark color? Let us see. I mean, imagine UK, for instance, if you didn't have the 4 seasons. No. Won't it be so boring to live in snow all the time, or in spring all the time, or in winters all the time? Why do you love being there? I mean, I was made in UK, I can tell you. I was delivered in a ship. My parents, my dad, who did his bar.
I like your story, the way how
you must have. Yeah, I did share with somebody on a podcast that I was made in London. And
I
I
read
was,
your article, by the way. That's why I got to know it when
yes,
you.
that was an interview turned into an article by in a South African magazine. Yes, and now this is what I was coming back to London. I love London. I love to be there. I'm given a choice. Even when I has to go to Paramaribo, I think best would have been to go to Netherlands and then take a flight. But I went to UK, then to Netherlands, and then took a flight to Paramaribo because the only Netherlands
Yeah.
flights they go to Paramaribo because there is a very strong affinity. I feel my roots are there because I was made there, delivered in a ship, and then when I landed in Africa, I was 2 days old. So unless there is some kind of a change, we always say we are change agents. So why don't we accept the change? We want to change the world as leaders, okay? That is what we always say, I want to be a change leader. When they say, but why do you want to join our organizations? You say, oh, I want to bring in some change. We think it's a cliche, to talk and impress people. No. When you are wanting to change people, accept the change first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Embrace it.
why not I should go to Africa and adapt to that style because it's there. And why should I use, because we all have two brains. One is the logic brain and one is the emotional brain. I would go by emotional brain and accept rather than use my logic brain that why is this person dark and why I am brown and is it living conditions, temperature, less food, malnutrition. What are the reasons? Okay, if it's malnutrition, why can't I ask WHO or at least some agency to say, okay, this part of the world needs more attention.
That's right.
Forget a new airport there. Instead, give them more food
That's right.
or give them more medicine. Aviation can wait for another 10 years. First, focus on that. I mean, we people have an access where, like your voice on posts, is loved by people. People read it and react to it. So create a post, let people know, create a campaign to fight against that, what is lacking. First accept it and see how I can change that. How can I change the circumstances so that it is in the larger interest of the community or society or the world or whatever you may say.
That's right. And you said it so beautifully. It's about actions, not just talk
Action.
itself.
Action is more
And the
important.
actions come actually automatically. I believe so. Once you embrace these things, which you said it's so lovely, then you automatically act towards that. You want to actually create change. You don't just want to talk about it, you do
Yes.
something about it.
Yes.
It becomes your natural way to do so. You know,
Yes.
I mean, if I give a little sample, I'm nowhere even close to what you have achieved so wonderfully in your life.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Now you want me to tell you how much I regard you as a professional, and all your virtues put together. I think
No,
if I may
you're
say,
very kind.
uh,
You're very kind. But
Shafaq,
what I
you
want,
are unique.
yeah,
If I could take the liberty of calling you unique,
thank
because
you.
that also came to my mind many a times. I said, if you are the best, I could have said you are the best podcaster, but if you are the best, you are number one. But
Yeah,
if you are unique, you are the only one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
See the
Oh,
difference? Very subtle difference. While we are talking, it just occurred to me that I would rather brand you unique. You have a style of your own. You have your own background. You have your own, whatever you have gone through in your childhood and as you grew, and you have a beautiful future ahead. So all that, those things put together, and I wouldn't say there could be many unique. Each one of us is unique in our own way. But with your virtues, I find you are unique. I won't say you are the best. I'll say you are unique because you have all that which probably other may not have. He would not have the same, or he would not have same virtues, maybe similar virtues. Again, there's a very subtle difference in
yeah,
same and similar. It's how you look at it.
that's
Okay,
right.
there could be many podcasters. They could possibly have the similar virtues, but not the same virtues. Each one
That's
of us
right.
is unique in that way. Yeah.
That's right. And you touched another thing which I wanted to also talk about, but we can do it now. It's about uniqueness. We must
Yes.
understand, and that is part of the Shafaq effect. I mean, just quickly, actually, the reason why I created the Shafaq effect is
Yes.
because it represents everything which I am, and I
Okay.
want to pass that to people. You know, there's so many people who are actually putting their own fears, their own hurdles in front of them to
Yes.
surpassing these things, to fulfilling themselves. Because what I want to portray to people is, and that's how I work with clients as well, and I act in exactly the same way how I would act on a podcast. And thank you very much for that lovely compliment. How I would talk to you, how I would talk to my clients is exactly in the same manner. Is to find out what is actually holding them back, what is holding them back in their own mindset, not to go further, not to, and that's what I wanted to say about my son, for instance, as well. He's doing his A levels at the moment, and last year he was doing his GCSE through this pandemic. And as you know, pandemic has created a lot of problems for these youngsters, and they
Yes.
had to study at home, were isolated, were unhappy, all these kind of things were happening. So the only thing I said to him, and that's what I portray to my clients as well, you cannot compare yourself to each other.
Yes.
You may bounce off each other, you may compete with each other, but you can
Yes.
never be 100% same because our brains are different. We are individual human beings. We can only be the best version of ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I
Yes.
said to myself, I said to my son last year, I don't want you to take any pressure on anything. As
Yes.
long I know you have reached your best, you have done your best, whatever
Yes.
the results might be, I'm happy with that. Don't
Yes.
think my expectations or the school's expectations or someone else, or just make yourself false expectations.
Yes.
Find out, identify where you're good at, focus on these things,
Yes.
and then work towards that to your best ability, to your own best ability. And that's the only goal we can achieve. That's the only way how we can progress and we can
Absolutely.
strive
Yes.
to become our best self. And that's the beautiful journey of self-discovery, which is another very major part
Yes.
of my
Yes.
program as well. That once you start following this path of self-discovery, it's like walking a beautiful pathway, and you have doors everywhere, to the right, to the left, to the back, to the front, and you start opening them and exploring them, and
Yes.
wondering what is behind there, what magic lies there, what can I understand from there, what can I learn from these things, and how can I connect this door one to door two to door three to door four. How can they actually merge with each other to make sense about my own brain, to make sense about my memories, my thought process, how I work, how I execute this in my behavior as well. You know, how I react to situations, for instance, why I don't react to situations, and how can I solve these things to create a better me. That's what it's about. We're not selfless beings because we are all needy. We are human beings. We need love, affection, food, sleep, shelter. All these things are Maslow's hierarchical needs, as we
Yes.
call it. It's basic human needs. Everybody needs them. We cannot be selfless. We are selfish beings who need these
Yes.
things back. So why not work with these things in a better way to understand what we need, to
Yes.
understand who we are, and then to progress in this pathway to be the best version of yourself?
Absolutely. Very well said. And I liked it very much when you mentioned being your own person. Don't try to imitate somebody. Yes, we can learn. We can emulate person while he's at work. Some good habits we can, but you still need your own identity.
Yeah,
And there's a beautiful book by Wayne Dyer. I'm sure you have heard about Wayne Dyer.
yeah,
His book called Pulling Your Own Strings.
I think I've heard about that. Yes,
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 I
yes.
was very lucky to get it during my college time and soon before joining work and all. It's unfortunate, Shafaq, that we are taught about emotional intelligence and all once you have finished your studies and you land up in Oxford,
Yeah,
and then you have to take an elective subject.
yeah.
I think it should be the other way around.
It
It
should
should
be the
start
foundation, I think, also
both
in
right
school.
from foundation when you are
Yeah,
about 12, 13 years old and you can understand what
yes,
emotions are all about. Bring in a small way,
yeah,
cultivate people in that line, and then why have it as an elective subject? It should be compulsory.
that's
I
right.
mean, the law of gravity, I think law of attraction is more important than law of gravity.
That's right.
You throw a ball up, it will never go up to the moon. It will fall down because the law of gravity is working there.
Yeah,
There's nothing I can do about it, neither you can do about it. It's good to know because a lot of things came out of understanding the law of gravity.
yeah,
But how much relevance we have now of law of gravity, because the outcome of law of gravity has been gone much, much beyond. So it's
yeah,
all there.
yeah.
Why reinvent the wheel, I would say.
Right.
I don't mind telling people that look, we had people of that caliber who could think of law of gravity, and that's how we are able to send our stuff to moon. But now with people like Bronson and all who are planning trips to the moon and return, that basic is gone. We have gone much beyond. I would rather say that you have a strong subject called behavioral sciences or emotional intelligence, or if you, some people have some kind of a feeling about emotional word.
Yeah,
You know, like if I tell you a little story about my acquaintance with somebody, and then you say, come on now, you're being too emotional. You know, it's taken in a different
yes,
connotation
yes,
altogether. Emotional is not the emotional, the word which is generally used. I mean, it's a very high, you are speaking from a very high plane. You have, you know, the awareness is gone much above.
that's right.
And then you become an emotionally intelligent person. You don't just become emotionally intelligent person just because you are emotional. I
No,
personally,
no, it's
it is pulling,
misperceived.
yes, yes. So this book, Pulling Your Own Strings, will teach you so many things. And you being a diplomat, you know how important it is. One thing which I learned and I practiced it, and we were told, you know, when you are inducted into UN system, they put you in a 3 months diplomacy course because you
Yeah.
see, let's say my first assignment was to Ethiopia.
Mm.
Now, I am different because I was born in I mean, I lived in the British Somaliland, which is next door to Ethiopia.
Mm.
Every family would have a son or a daughter going into Ethiopia as, you know, marriage partner or reverse. So it was a different thing. I knew what Ethiopia is, and probably my selection to Ethiopia was for that reason,
Mm.
that I'm going to a country which is not totally strange. Because a
Yeah.
lot of, I'm told later on that some people even didn't want to go to Ethiopia. But for
Right.
me, it was like going home. So I accepted it. But we were told one thing, Shafaq, that many a times in your work, even now, you would come across a situation where you cannot comply with what the receiver wants you to do.
That's
You
right.
know,
Yeah.
the recipient government where you are gone to help, there might be some people who may want things in a different way, and you may have to say, go to hell.
Yeah.
Now, where the diplomacy comes is that you say go to hell in a way that they look
Yeah.
forward to going to the hell.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You convey the message, go to hell, but put it in a way, in some different words, so that they say, that must be a great place, huh? We must go there. So this is what diplomacy is. Diplomacy doesn't really being a yes man. I had certain confrontations, and those people respected me for that.
Mm.
At that moment, I thought it's going to be very damaging to me. At that particular moment, if you allow me, I'll share one small thing, because you see, all those other things about law of attraction, emotional intelligence is all on internet. You
That's
click,
right.
you get everything. But
Yes.
these lifetime experiences, which you have told me, which I want to share with you, are not there on the
No.
internet.
No, they're not. And
They are,
I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Don't worry about anything. I take
oh,
my time and I give
oh,
my guests enough time.
okay.
So
With your
there's
permission,
no
I'll
rush at
share
all.
with you, which would be like, I'm sure a lot of people like me must have done that. And You see, what meets the eye is different. I may come out as a very polite person, and I am a very humble person, which I am, but I'm very firm in my convictions, Shafaq. I mean, nobody can play with my convictions. They can fine tune it.
Yeah.
Talking to you, you can tell me, Inderjit, you said so very well, but what about if you were to say like this?
Yeah.
I'll say, sure, Shafaq. I mean, I am interacting with you today, and maybe this is my fourth or fifth or sixth podcast. You do it almost regularly, and you do it with highly accomplished people. So you know their psyche, you understand people, you are a psychologist yourself. So you know each and everything. So I went to this minister for civil aviation of a very big country, okay? And I was an advisor to the prime minister of that country. I mean, to the government. And I was sharing a room right next to the prime minister, honorable prime minister. So I went there with an appointment for something which only this person could decide on. We all have our limitations, that I can spend that much or no more. Then there was no superior between me and the honorable minister for civil aviation. They used to call him external communications. They don't call civil aviation.
Yeah.
So when I entered he knew that I have arrived. He, offered me to sit down. I generally carry one more file also, so that, if somebody is too much preoccupied, I can look at it and, save some time. But this person went on and on. He would pick up the telephone. He would decide, okay, tomorrow we'll play golf at this time or that time. Then he's also tying up some cocktail for the evening. Then he lights his cigar and starts smoking. I was getting restless. So I told him, I said, I almost got up from my seat and I said, perhaps I'll come some other time. I mean, that is what diplomacy is.
Yeah.
So I said, perhaps. He says, but why? What happened? So I said, you seem to be okay. In between, while he was talking to his colleague, that colleague, I guess, offered him to come and have a cup of coffee
Right.
in the executive lounge or canteen or whatever. He says, I can't leave these Rex. Rex is a phone which is hotline.
Right.
So the Rex is between him and the prime minister, between him and the finance minister, between him and the defense minister. So
Right.
they can privately talk without,
Yes.
getting any intermediary.
Right.
So he said, I can't leave this place, Shafaq. He said, I can't leave this place. Every 1 minute, either the prime minister is calling or defense minister. And I was hearing all that, and that was getting on my nerves. I wanted to tell him that I've been here 20 minutes. Neither the prime minister called you, nor the defense minister called you. Nobody called you. So that self kind of a feeling, that, oh, I'm too big a person. That is not good.
Right.
So when I almost got up, he says, what happened? What happened? I said, no, I think you are too preoccupied. You have big things to do today. I'll seek an appointment from your secretary and come again tomorrow because the deadline is approaching. We have to decide on this matter. So he got the signal. He immediately folded his file, push the phone a little far. All those cocktail parties and all were cancelled for the moment, shut this thing. Then he says, now please tell me. So I told him the problem. And we were to pick on one person, one country, three countries were going to give the aid for the project on a very small kind of retainership and all that stuff.
Right.
So he said, okay, you tell me whom to give and I'll sign it. I said, no. If that was it, I would have done it on my own because I was quite cheesed off. I said, no, if I had the authority to do it, I'll do it on my own. I won't have bothered and interrupted. I come to meet you. So you have to decide. At best, as a technical person, I can support your choice because all three are equals. Okay, it is a matter of picking the first amongst the equals. Okay, so there's no harm. He has the authority. Nobody will question him. Why did you pick number 2 or number 3? Because they're all equals. And as a technical person, I approve all three, but you can't get all three. You have to get one. So he says, okay, he took a country's name. Okay, we'll go ahead with it. I said, of course. They have a good track record. They have already invested in our project. They are doing very well. We have no problems. We'll go with it.
Yeah.
So while I got up and I was going, he had a very huge kind of a table in front of him, the minister. So he took a full round, came close to me, shook my hands and hugged me.
wow. You
And
must have given him such a good lesson with that.
I forgot everything that happened in last 20 minutes. I had some kind, I generally don't carry grudges, but
Mm.
I thought that he's too arrogant a man and I'll try to avoid him. Okay. And meet him at the airport and put across on my ground, I will talk to him. Then I would be, like a busy man and all that stuff. So, because there's a protocol that whenever the minister, prime minister goes through an airport, the chief of the airport has to be around to
Yeah.
ensure that not that he gets coffee and all, but he gets the security, every system is
Yeah.
okay, everything is in place. So we have to be around. But when he hugged me, I said, he's as human as I am.
Yeah.
It is just, he had some kind of false pretensions in him that maybe he was trying to impress somebody by saying that, prime minister calls me every minute and defense minister calls me, while I witnessed that nobody called him in 20 minutes because everybody has his own things going on in the world.
Yeah.
Nobody has the time to call each other for every little question. But then I suddenly started liking that man. And then we became good friends. And one day, I think I called him. Well, we were advised not to call anybody sir and all. It was always, and incidentally, he was a knighted man. He was sir something. So when, let's say, if you get sir, Sir Shafaq, we will not call you sir, we'll call you Shafaq. It's always Sir Shafaq, the first name linked
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
title. So I knew, but I was probably calling him sir because of that, his title. Otherwise, I prefer to call people by first name because we are all equals, I feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
He's
right.
there because of his position, because he belongs to that country. I could be there one day, or somebody else like me could be there one day. So I respect people, but I don't generally get awed by people.
Yeah. Yeah.
To everybody his own. Give them full respect, give them full dignity which they deserve by virtue of being there.
That's right.
So I just wanted to share with this that many a times difficult situations come in. You use your intelligence, whatever intelligence, call it by any name, get over the situation, and I think you will be duly rewarded. To me, the reward was his acceptance that he was going wrong. He came around the table, hugged me, and next time, whenever we met at the airport, we were like friends because that was over.
Yeah.
It was out of our system. What happened that day was totally out of the system. And then next time he said, next time you come, you don't even have to knock the door, just walk in.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. I told him there. I said, no, I will still seek appointment. I will still knock the door, even when your secretary says, go ahead. And I will still knock the door, wait for you to make me sit. So he says, I'm learning a lot today. And he was no ordinary. Huh? He was, I think, from Stanford or something, a very learned man he was. But those basic things probably he was not aware of.
Right.
So one had to flag those, that when you call somebody, give him time, give your ears also to him and pack him up in 5 minutes rather than holding him for 20 minutes. And don't try to impress.
No.
He is also a golfer. If he was trying to tell me that he was a golfer, I am also incidentally a good golfer. Okay.
That's
Okay.
right. You're a brilliant golfer. I've followed all your pathway as such.
Yes, brilliant, meaning that again, I would attribute it to, yes, I won't undermine by saying I have no skills. I have the skills for the game, but I was the only one I was in that club where I got 2 holes in one. You know what hole in one is?
Yeah.
That you shoot and it goes and falls in the hole.
Yeah.
So this is very rare. I'm told 1 million shots and you tend to get one hole in one. There are people who have played for 10 years, 15 years, they never got a hole in one. So I got 2 in a span of 6 months. So suddenly after one, I became a hero. This was an army golf course. And I used to see that when after that hole in one, when I used to play and when I used to hit, I used to see certain people stopping and looking at me. And that was very motivating for me. I said, now they are expecting that I would have another hole in one. And that I conditioned my mind from that day onwards that, yes, why not? If I could make it once, why not twice, thrice, and 4 times? So within 6 months, I got twice. And some generals would come and say, can we play next week? So I said, my God, I mean, just somebody who is ordinary becomes an extraordinary. Like, you have, let's say you have, I meet you in a club or in a restaurant, and somebody introduces me to you as, this is Shafaq, this is Inderjit, and we say hello to you. I mean, I'm just picturing you. Then you go and sit down, and I'm already known that my friend has already briefed me about your virtues and how popular and how good you are in your vocation, whether it is neuroscience or whether it is podcasting or so many other things that you do. And then while you are being served, I do these case studies with myself. And then while the waiter is serving, he drops a glass of ice cream or a cup of ice cream on your beautiful dress that you're wearing. Okay, imagine. Now I'm looking at you because one, you are strikingly good. So I'm looking at you and feel good that I've been introduced to you. And we are talking about you in some other context about and then you get up, you open your bag and you take out a $10 bill and give it to this waiter. And he who was horrified suddenly smiles at you, you smile at him, because you know that this amount will be deducted from his salary. Of course, the manager will come and say sorry and all and fire him and all, but you felt that this is not his fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
It dropped. He has served 4 people, nothing happened. It just had to happen with me. Now, what will I tell my friend? I'll say Shafaq is a woman of substance.
Mm.
The same Shafaq who was just a pretty woman becomes a woman of substance.
Mm.
This gentleman, President Obama, whom I like very much, became a complete man when I saw him shaking hands with the guard. Yeah. Without any inhibition. Yeah. So, there is a very thin line between a woman and a woman of substance, yeah. A man and a complete man. Yeah. A few minutes back, somebody who was just a woman, a nice woman, a gracious woman, a lovely woman, intelligent woman, becomes a woman of substance to me. Because I saw that softer side of you.
The human side.
I don't call these skills soft skills. I call them power skills.
Yeah.
They are not soft. They are very powerful.
Yeah.
You send a signal all around that by shouting or by abusing him and all, what could you possibly gain? Nothing. You still have to go to the dry cleaners, give the dress, get it done. You would have just created a scene by nothing. You just kept a napkin where it fell down. You didn't even bother to wipe it, not to embarrass anybody. You continued your conversation like you were going on. You did a very fine gesture of saving that person's money, because generally, when you do something like that, that amount is deducted from your salary. This is an unwritten rule, because you have lost that much, because you may not pay for it in the bill, or in fact, they won't even raise the bill for you for that, because you never had it. So, these are the very, very small things which we learn when we meet people.
That's right.
These are not in the books. You can go to Oxford, you can go to Stanford, you can go wherever, Cambridge, whatever. But what you learn through real life is more important. That's why when I write, I write from my heart. I don't use big words and all. I mean, whatever I know little, I share with people in a very simple language. And that has proven to me some kind of a strength for me, because there is this beautiful book published out of UK. I mean, not a book, it is a magazine called Airports International.
Yeah.
Okay. Very, very popular. I think it is written on top that the world's number one.
You shared that in your one of your posts as well.
Airports International, yeah. It is published out of UK, and I did only 2 articles when I was working somewhere, and then to my utter surprise, I got the letter from the chief editor saying that in the history of Airports International, we never had a non-British international correspondent. Would you like to be one? So I today also get goosebumps that, somebody from there, and he clarifies that, we never had a non-English, non-British international correspondent. Would you like to be one? My answer was, why not? just in 2 words, I said, why not? I mean, and this is an honor. And since then, I'm the international correspondent for them, and I contribute an article every second month, depending on my other works that I do. And it's been great going. So sometimes, you ought to know your strengths.
Yeah,
You have to be simple, straightforward.
that's right.
I think that defines somewhat what emotional intelligence is all about. The rest, I would expect you tell us what is that, why you picked on this particular subject, and how have you reached where you are today?
Well, first of all, I wanted to actually say you have touched upon very, very important subjects and points. I mean, this political gentleman who you mentioned first, the way the reaction you had as such, it actually just proves that you are your true self. And I have to apologize quickly, and it happens to me unfortunately every time where my charger battery just runs out and I have to quickly plug it in. But that's another little organic thing of my podcast.
Yes.
But yes, what is important about that is that you are actually true to yourself. You stand your ground. Being a humble person, or being a natural leader, or being developed in emotional intelligence doesn't mean that you have to be fooled or you have to follow someone.
No.
You be yourself.
Yes.
And you stand for your rules, you stand for your beliefs, you stand for what you are, and then act towards that. And you can use it in a very diplomatic way, how you've done it beautifully, because that's when people start seeing you and respecting you in a different way. Because there's a psychological term which is called bystander effect, and I use that very, very often. I don't know if you came that term across as such. A bystander effect is usually because we human beings, most of us, want to belong again to social identity.
Yes.
That we are too afraid of how the tribe or the society or the environment would think about us
Yes.
if we acted outside our natural group,
Yes.
whatever that might be.
Yes.
Which is why we have a bystander effect, that most people, if something happened to somebody else, which is odd, which is outside of their normal, usual self of their group identity, they don't react to that. They wouldn't act, they wouldn't help, they wouldn't do anything unless somebody comes out, then they follow. Somebody helps, somebody does something, then they may follow. But other than that, they would stay within their group identity because they have this fear and this crisis within them. What would happen if I done that? Or what would the other person think about it? I don't want to be ostracized. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be talked about, which is why these actions then are not there. There are very few people who do that. And you have stayed firm to your belief. You could have easily gone there and acted like many others would have maybe done, and just be too polite and just sit there for another hour and let him deal with these things until he decides how he can talk to you. And you may have never become friends, or he may have never given you a hug, because you would be just one of millions who would be just saluting him as he would have expected, and not actually showing your personality. So this is a wonderful thing which you have developed, which actually stands out for you than other people. The other thing is also, from his point of view, it's also a fear factor as well. When you show yourself as somebody, and that's again presenting yourself as somebody who you're actually not. Because if he was that kind of person, he wouldn't have come and hugged you at all. That wouldn't have happened, this gesture. But he may have thought, and that's what I would judge within that situation, listening to you, that if he was to give up himself, like he's used to other people as well, that he's actually a humble human being, or maybe just a human being in general, and not this authoritative leader as such, or in this position, then he may have been perceived as a weak person. That might be a weakness as such. So he had to portray himself as the important, the powerful one, the one who's receiving all these phone calls, these private phone calls, personal ones from important other leaders and so on, and making you wait. But because you didn't actually pick up on that and you stayed true to your ground, that's what struck him, and suddenly he thought, I don't have to prove anything to this man. I can just be myself. And that's why you made him feel comfortable as well, because you're not actually expecting him to be the leader. You just saw him as a human being, and that is what's important. No matter who you come across, and I do that in my line of work, whether it's personal life, whatever it might be, as long as you become your true self and you stay to your ground. For instance, like, I don't eat pork. Somebody could, and that's not only for religious reasons, also mainly for religious reasons, but also generally, there's biological reasons behind that. There's lots of genetic, scientific reasons behind that, why I don't eat pork. I don't even like the smell of pork, for instance, for me personally, but I don't judge somebody else doing that. But there have been many people around me as I've grown up in Germany as well, and Germans do love pork. They do love eating pork in everything. I'm talking about even a chicken slice would be enrolled in ham, for instance. And salad would have ham inside. So almost everything includes pork. So I have gathered in many events, in many parties where I wouldn't eat anything because of these reasons, and many people would just kind of try to entice me. Oh, you're missing the goodness, you're missing the good food, or you can't even imagine how good it tastes like, all these kind of things. So I just say thank you, but no thank you, I'm fine. And I stay true to my ground. Or even as a teenager, when many teenagers go into, because this one smokes, I do that as well. Let me try, because I'm getting bullied, or I'm getting, they're laughing at me, or I just want to fit into the group. I've never been that kind of person. If I don't believe in something and I don't like the smell of cigarette at all, I don't like it in my hair, even standing next to somebody, I don't like it when it goes on my skin, anything about that I don't like. That's not to say that I would make that other person feel like this. It's just for me, myself. So I stay true to my ground. I would never even try, and I never tried in my teenage years neither. So these are firm beliefs which you should have if you believe in something yourself, and that's what then develops you into your true self. And you have to have these qualities within you to grow that, which you have done beautifully. Because once you bend yourself to someone else's belief, then you're actually losing your own identity. You're not being you no more. You're becoming a copy version of somebody else, which can never establish, because we're coming back to individualism. We're individual human beings. We cannot imitate someone else. We can learn from other people and other experiences and other education, but we cannot be someone else. It will never happen. So why not embrace your own self? Embrace your own self and learn from your own self and strive from that. And coming back to your question, that is what emotional intelligence is. It's embracing your own qualities, understanding your own qualities, being self-aware of that, and work with these. It's not about pushing things away. It's about embracing everything. I mean, I say always to my clients that whatever experiences you have gone through, it's the way how you manage experiences, good or bad experiences, could be even joyful experiences. We have to manage, it's the way how you manage them. We walk alongside them. We don't push them away. We walk alongside them. When we allow them to enter our life, they come and go as they want to, but they don't take over our life, because we are in charge. We are the one who decide what we want to have, when we want to have it, and how we want to have it. And that's where all these things come about. And even the lovely sample which you gave about that waiter, if I was to portray all these things and I'm talking about all these things, but then I'm coming across to someone rude, how contradictory would that be?
Yes.
It would actually define that person in real terms, who that person really is. It's about humility. That's another thing of emotional intelligence,
Right.
about humility, about being actually just a good human being. That's all what it means, you know,
Absolutely.
striving to be a good human being. We can never be perfect. And that's another term which comes into emotional intelligence. Perfectionism doesn't exist because we're
No,
human beings.
no.
We are born with mistakes. We have to make mistakes in order to
Yes.
progress. We
Yes.
cannot actually just exceed and excel without mistakes. And that's what I was talking to Dr. Charlie Cartwright as well about. We
Yes,
were
yeah.
having a lovely conversation about failures are the foundation of your success.
Yes, yes,
You
I
cannot.
remember. I remember you raised that point. Yeah.
That's right. We cannot build success. Whatever your success will be,
Yes.
everybody's success is different. We
Yeah.
cannot build on success just with good times and with success in general in your pathway as in along the way, because we wouldn't have nothing to measure that with.
Absolutely. I
It's,
agree with
it's,
you fully.
it's
Yeah.
simple. It's simple mathematics. It's simple
Yes.
physics.
Yes.
A plus and a minus, they actually compete with each other, and you can compare that. If you
Yes.
just have plus, 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 you wouldn't have nothing to compare it with because it would
No.
be just one line. So where's the
Yes.
success then? There is no success. You can only compare it if you have something else to compare with that. So,
Yes.
you know, coming even back to the pandemic, for instance, many people said, oh, what will happen? How would we survive? No, we can always survive about that, because if there was only the pandemic in one country, for instance, all the other countries would have actually the empowerment over the other country, over that one country where the pandemic was. But
Yes.
the fact that it's now spread globally,
Yeah.
it just means that it could now, and that's the reverse effect from actually comparing with each other, equalize. The whole world economy has broken down. So
Yes.
there's
Yes.
nothing to measure that with. So we
Yes.
can go back to ground zero and start new.
Refresh.
So
Yeah.
that is the reverse or opposite effect from actually comparing from success and failures, where
Yeah.
if you have a whole society making same mistakes, same failures, same successes, then it just equalizes. It doesn't mean nothing. You can just start with new again.
Yeah.
So we have to understand where all these elements come from, and that's how we develop emotional intelligence. It's
Yes.
about controlling and managing our reactions to certain things. It's about how we're developing, how we're actually progressing in our life, how we're measuring success and failures, how we're measuring our progress in life, how we're taking these memories and how we're using these memories towards our present life. And many people, if you even look at the posts which are coming up now on LinkedIn, there's many things. Oh, what do you think most about? You think about your future, how you're building your future. You cannot build your future. You can only build your present.
Yeah.
You can build your present because we haven't seen the future.
Yes.
What we can do is we can prepare the foundation stones of our future on what we do in our present. We
Yes.
take them from our memories, we take them from our experiences, we take
Yes.
them from our behavior, we take them from our present life, and
Yes.
that's how we merge them all together to build the foundation for our future. So if you understand all these little elements, then you automatically actually start developing emotional intelligence. I know I brought so many points into that, but this is what emotional intelligence is. It's about maturing within yourself. It's about understanding your own true self and becoming who you are. I mean, I had in the embassy, for instance, when I came to London, And I was posted as a young woman, you know, head of procurement at that time. And as soon as I walked in, suddenly it was like a fresh breath of air for them, for all these hierarchical guys. And they thought the only brown-looking person of 8,000 diplomatic staff. It might have changed slightly, but at that time it wasn't like this.
Yeah.
So coming into that territory, I felt like a little fish in a big shark's water. And as you can imagine, as a young woman, yes, I understand I'm somehow attractive to men at some point, you know, that men do perceive me suddenly, oh, she's in a very powerful position. She's not white,
Yeah.
and she is beautiful. How did she get there?
Okay.
So a lot of attention, negative attention came about, other attention, male attention came about, but also competitors who wanted to, you know, get rid of me. So it had to take a lot of kind of, not just strength, I would say. I mean, at that time, I wasn't as much developed, or I didn't understand fully who I was at that time than I do now. But it was my kind of maybe humility or humbleness as such, which actually safeguarded me from all these sharks, how I call them. Because if I was too much aware at that time of everything going on in India, we call it maybe a little bula, I don't know, you know, innocent kind of way, then I might have got myself into some form of trouble, just innocently, without knowing, unintentionally. But the reason, because I was always this humble kind of person, always down to earth person, somehow whatever energy is up there safeguarded me from all of this. So I went into my position, and suddenly I started looking at, and that comes back to your deeds as well, which is part of emotional intelligence. Looking at, the embassy staff, they need certain things. They need their uniforms, which hasn't been replaced for years. Some of them couldn't pay their rent within the embassy. They were living in quarters and so on. Others had other problems. So I focused myself, although I was responsible for, you know, providing the embassy with luxury goods and lots of other things. But besides that, I was focusing on the local staff, on the house staff. I thought they needed the most. So how can I make it happen to help them in that way? So I think when this humility comes about, this is part again of EI as such. It does safeguard you from any kind of bad thoughts as such you may develop. You know, you become actually very or you relate yourself to the mother nature, you relate yourself to the world, you relate yourself to humanity as such, and then just keep working towards that and become even a better person, a better version of yourself. That's all what you can do. And that's all what emotional intelligence includes. It's about how you progress in life and how you become a best version of your own self.
Very good.
I don't know how much else to say about that.
I think you summed up this emotional intelligence in a beautiful way, in very nice way, gave you a complete picture. Lately, I mean, we'll end up now if the time is over. I have got into, like you said, forces, you know, that work. I think universe, leave it to the universe. Universe forces would tend to clear your paths, make the way comfortable. If one path is not good, it will pave another path for you.
Right.
Go ahead. You have to take some kind of a risk. Lately, Shafaq, I have started realizing one thing, that either I am a winner or I have learned something out of it. I don't even use this word that I have lost. If I have, let's say we'll relate it to golf, for instance, we had enough of academic talks. In golf, if I have lost the game, I feel that those 2 strokes I didn't play well. So I have learned, and I know that I cannot go to an academy now full time to learn golfing. I would try to rectify it next time.
That's right.
So I have not actually lost, I have gained. I mean, it's again conditioning your mind. And I feel that if I have lost something, it was not meant to be for me. I think there is something bigger coming my way. And I can only share one small incident. When I got my first appointment, I was the youngest to be inducted in that particular rank. You know, like, you know, the hierarchy.
Yeah.
You were in the administration, so you may be going by D1, D2 and all. I was in the technical side, so we had P1, P2, P3, P4, P5 and all. So I was picked up my first appointment at P3 scale, or P3. So I was damn excited because what I was earning, this was almost 10 times more. So I called my dad, who was then, he was not the Attorney General by then. He's, as I mentioned to you, he studied in UK and then worked in British Somaliland and all the territories of the British Empire, many, many countries in Africa and other countries. So I immediately got excited and I said, you know what, I made it there. So his one question was, what scale are they offering you? I said P3 step 2 or something. He says, don't take it. For a moment, now that was wisdom, okay, because he wants his son to grow better. Yeah. So he said, listen, if you join now at P3, you will be branded in P3 bracket. So whenever there is an appointment in some other country coming within that P3 scale, you will be the number one if you perform very well here. So hold on. So I just disconnected the phone and I started wondering, did I have to ask? But then I waited for about 8 months or 9 months, and then I was offered something in P5. Right. For my age then, P5 was very, very high. I mean, P5, P6 is the Under Secretary General's rank. I mean, if you were to compare in the UN and ICAO, because the ranks are the same. So I thought that, yes, patience did help. And that's what I learned from, you see, again, we are learning. And I said, that's yes, right. If I push myself for P3, probably I would have been a P3 all along. Now, today, if I am in the P5 or P6, next time, if they select me, they will never give me P3 because the benchmark has been there at P5. So I could get P5. I had 3 years in one place, so it became P2, step 1, step 2, step 3. Probably now it will be P5, step 4. Because they can't give you less, they'll always give you more. Though the difference between steps is a few dollars. Even in the scales, it's a few dollars, but it is your association in an organization at what level. That's because you feel that you are qualified for it. So why should you accept anything less than that? And deprive somebody else who may get a P3 there. You know, we are not being selfish, but we are also doing a favor to somebody who is more likely to fit into that bracket. That's right. That's right. Absolutely. So, and you said it. These are beautiful things, Shafaq, which we learn. And I learned a lot from you today discussing things. And I look forward to many more such occasions where we can share. Of course, we can always have another podcast. Actually, I'll be happy to do so if you would like to, and carry on our conversation as such. It's been actually such a delight. And I must admit, before we go, that you said it really beautifully, that we learn from our experiences. We never lose. And it's one of my motto as well, which I train my clients about that. And I can 100% relate to you. And our experiences as such, negative experiences and negative people, we learn. These are life lessons. Yes. They give us life lessons. Happiness and joy, they just create the beauty and they balance out actually these life lessons. So either way, we're actually not losing. We're creating memories out of these beautiful things. And we are creating life lessons out of negative experiences. And when we're merging both together, it brings this beautiful harmonic balance of itself, where we create our coping strategies, where we create how to progress further, where we learn from these things and how we actually fulfill our lives with that. It's just how we manage and how we see these things. That's what it comes down to, not what life encounters us with, because anything can happen, and at any time we can be confronted to challenging situation or challenging events. This pandemic, for instance, I mean, it is. I think the universe has shaken us to awaken us. Actually, right. I mean, we all come down to earth now. We belong to the dust, and we have realized that.
That's right.
So,
I mean, I don't know how long it lasts, because as human beings, we have very short memories. And
yes,
as much people have
yes,
learned during the pandemic,
yes,
I feel in many ways that people are going back to their old ways, which is unfortunately is just human nature. But then it takes the likes of you and me and keep,
yes,
portraying that message that we
yes,
must actually stay true to ourselves and be kind, which is why I put out all these posts out there. It's not that people don't know, everybody knows about it, but sometimes we just need a reminder. We just need
yes,
to
yes,
visualize things
yeah,
that no, we need to look after that. We need to
yes,
look after our world. We need to look after each other. And
yeah,
we must become a better version of ourselves. We must become beautiful human beings. I mean, the same thing which I had on my Wednesday post, self-care is so simple. People make all sorts of excuses about, oh, I haven't got time, I haven't got this, I haven't got that, I'm too busy, too occupied, or too much to do
yeah.
with my children.
Those are excuses.
Everybody has half an hour in that
Of
24
course,
hours.
yes, yes,
Everybody
yes,
has that.
yeah,
And it doesn't take long, because
yeah,
we are surrounded by nature. We can go anywhere and just sit
yes,
there. Even sitting there for 20 minutes makes such a difference. And
yes,
people don't realize how much of a difference these things make. But then we're coming back to emotional intelligence and self-awareness. It's all interlinked with each other. That when we develop this awareness, these things automatically fall into place.
yeah,
Wherever it's money, wherever it's your success, like you then gained a various different positions. As long you're self-aware and you're patient within yourself, you're
yes,
actually
yes,
analyzing things a little different than just rejection. Oh no, why did this one say no? Or why is this happening? This why question goes. It just
yeah,
disappears. And
yes,
you just work with what you have. You create
yes,
solutions in what you have. You make
yeah,
it happen. I mean, I said it to the David Galvin as well, my podcast, which I had with this American gentleman. He's lovely, by the way. I also said to him, look, in this kind of way, if we have things where we keep questioning how we're going to manage this, or why is this happening, or we keep blaming this one, we will never move forward, because our focus will always be at
yeah,
that situation, at that person, at that event. We're only harming ourselves,
yeah,
because these things are gone, or these things have happened. So whatever has happened now, just make it happen and create solutions for that. Find ways out.
yes,
So
yes,
last year during the pandemic, that's what I was talking to him about. The first lockdown which happened, I was watching carefully, observing carefully what was happening in China. And this was way before the lockdown actually took place. It was around October, November time
yes,
in
19,
2019.
19, yeah,
That's right, that's right. And I was watching the news and I had the feeling we're coming back to leave your attention to the universe. That's not to say that we're careless, we're just more aware of things.
yeah,
So I thought something is not right, something doesn't
yes,
seem to be right in that
yeah,
way. So what I started doing, and you could relate to that, is I've grown up in a way where we Asians just keep dry food in the house, just general. We always have rations of at least a few weeks where you could survive comfortably without having to rush anywhere, without having to panic. That's not to say that it's bulk buy, it's just things which are there just naturally.
yeah,
If I don't have bread available, for instance, I just make my own roti.
yeah,
I've got flour. I know how to make things or just
yes,
create things. Even if I have two vegetables at home, I would know how to make a dish. So
for sure,
you just use your brain in that. But I was watching the news and I thought something is not right. So let me, and this was many months before. I started in December, January. I purchased some storage boxes, food safe storage boxes, which I put in my garage.
yeah,
And I started purchasing. Well, I would purchase one pack of something. I purchased two packs. So I wasn't bulk buying, but I was just purchasing slightly more. So every week, if I go shopping, I would do the same and fill these boxes up time after time, to prepare myself, just unintentionally, just
Future
by
plan.
watching. Say it again.
Future planning, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
You had an intuition. I think.
Absolutely. So
It was all,
it was just going on like this, and I thought, times are changing. Something I just had a feeling about something. So once then the pandemic kicked in Europe, and in the Western world, suddenly in March we had the lockdown. It was just unannounced. It just came out of nothing and nowhere. People were buying off the shelves. Everything was panicking. They didn't know what to do. And I was quite comfortable. I mean, my ex-partner at that time was asking me, he said, "Oh, what we're going to do?" And I said to him, "Don't worry about it. We're going to be just fine." I could even help my neighbors. I could help my surrounding if somebody else needed help in that way, because I had enough stock in the house. And even if I didn't have, because I don't prepare any ready-made meals or anything, everything is quite fresh, but I do it in a way where it's still quite quick, quite healthy, still tasty, doesn't lose the taste. But because I use my brain and I mix things together, we didn't have to panic about anything. So once the first lockdown was over, we were quite comfortable during that time. And that's where also emotional intelligence comes about. You just use your brain, be aware of your surrounding, know what to do, and be patient within yourself. Because once you start panicking in certain situations, your brain just goes. You cannot actually think rationally.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to keep your mental state in balance. I mean, it all boils down to that. As long as you are aware, like again, we started with this topic. Now you are aware of the environment. Earlier, we were talking of awareness within yourself. Now you're looking around and seeing how things could possibly, and it's always said that hope for the best and be prepared for the worst. I mean, that is where intelligence comes in, whichever way you call it. I mean, we all hope all goes well. And look, it's not something new. We had SARS, we had MERS, we had Ebola. I mean, the virus is not something that just come in surprisingly.
That's right.
And you never know, this may not be the end. I mean, even if we are vaccinated, all of us, the entire population of the world, which in itself is a very tall order, even if we get vaccinated, where is the guarantee that this COVID will not come again in some other form? Okay. I mean, I don't want to sound pessimist, and I don't also want to sound very over-optimist. I think all of us should be more realist.
That's right.
Yes, it's not something new. It's happened in the past, and there's no guarantee that it would not happen in the future. So what you did was wise. I mean, you stocked yourself well, even not for your own self. Like you said, you could even distribute in your neighborhood. And maybe you had done that. It was required for you to do it. So it's good, actually, it's very good that we are aware and we know what's happening and what is likely to happen.
I mean, that's right, going back into evolutionary psychology, we had to do that. We came from hunters and gatherers. We had to prepare food. We had to prepare for the winter. We had to prepare for the summer. We had to prepare for the shelter. I think it's the comfort of the modern technology, the modern life, where people actually forget to think of themselves or just to think independently. And we then start relying on too many other things without actually understanding again that we are individual human beings. We are capable of doing these things.
Yeah, very right, very right. And these hunches and all are what? There are all past experiences.
Yeah.
Why do you get an intuition? You get an intuition because somewhere in your subconscious mind, you know this has happened. So it may again happen. You know, pleasant intuitions, unpleasant also. Sometimes you get to know that, there's something brewing, something is going to happen wrong. Suddenly you get that kind of a signal from somewhere. That's where the universal thing comes in, which is outside you. We are part of the universe, but
absolutely. If you leave your burden, if you let the universe take over, you use your own brain without actually carrying this burden by yourself, then where you evolve. life
Yes,
develops and life becomes beautiful suddenly.
yes,
It
you're
doesn't
right,
come dark no
absolutely.
more.
In our aviation parlance, they always say that you have to be very light if you want to fly high. Birds fly high because they don't carry extra baggage.
No.
When we travel, I mean, I'm trying to make it as simple as that. We always have extra baggage, and when you come back, you regret. Did I have to carry all that? I mean, you can come to UK in a pair of jeans and a couple of t-shirts, and depending on what weather is, maybe a jacket. That's all.
Yeah,
But you tend to stuff yourself. So that extra baggage which we carry on our mind all the time, one should get rid of it.
that's right.
Because, Shafaq, as I would just tell you one small thing, and you can't drive forward if you always look at the rear mirror of your car. Okay,
Absolutely.
you have to look at the windshield to go forward. If you keep on looking at the rear view, you will never go forward.
No,
So I think past is only an indicative. We have to learn lessons from it, analyze them, and then when we are making our roadmap, make use of that wisdom and be prepared for course correction.
that's right.
Never be very, very rigid about what you want to do.
Yeah,
You have to say that, okay, if some eventuality happens, I would change the course. We do it in aviation. When we
that's
see a very thick, I'm a pilot, when we see a very thick charged cloud, we know our destination is straight, but we circumvent the cloud and then go, or we go
that's
down
right.
or we go up.
That's
So
right.
that's the whole idea of life also. I mean, you can't
Right.
plan your life 5 years hence, and
No,
especially after this pandemic. I mean, you don't know what's in store tomorrow.
no.
But the third wave may be in the waiting, or the fourth wave may be in the waiting, and we are not aware of it.
Absolutely,
Just
absolutely. We have to be
in that
flexible.
moment,
We have to
yeah,
be flexible, adaptable.
make the best of what you have in the
That's
moment.
right.
Try to improve on it, and go ahead.
That's all what it comes down to. Not
Yes.
to panic,
Not to
just
panic at all. It
just
doesn't help.
just to
It
create.
spoils the
No,
process. It spoils.
absolutely. It's been such a delight. It's been
It
wonderful
was great.
talking to you.
It was fun. I enjoyed every moment, and I think it's been a good learning experience from you, and meeting like this across. It's so much fun.
It is lovely. I hope I made you feel comfortable, which I'm always determined to do.
Absolutely,
To
absolutely
anyone I
comfortable.
talk to. And it's
I
been
know.
wonderful talking to you. At some point, if you would like to, we can always have another podcast. I mean, we're in contact anyway.
Anytime,
We will converse.
anytime. Yeah, we could. This was too vast a subject, and I think we went all over the world, from experiences in Africa to here and everywhere. We could possibly think of a particular topic and just delve on that and
That's
see
right.
what's the way forward.
That's
And
right. I think as an
it's a vast
introduction, it's
subject.
always nice to just talk about casually, because people do like to know you in in my network as well, and vice versa as well. So it's nice just to have this human touch initially, and then we can form and focus on the subject later on. But it's
Now,
been wonderful.
the last word, not from Shafaq, but the psychologist in Shafaq. What do you have to? Have you been reading my mind?
Well, the last word would be, I would say, it's actually not you are my guest, so I should ask you for the last word, but I will I will do so. Last word is, I hope people have learned from this talk that anything you want to become, and that was one of your first sentence you mentioned, that you can be. You
Yeah,
can become what you want to be as
yes,
long you believe in that.
yes.
And that's not to say that always what you believe is the right way to be, so that will be the outcome. Sometimes the universe or whatever your beliefs or your karma, your future may hold, could be something else or something better. But
Yeah.
let it happen. As long you believe in that and you have the power, the strength, the determination to something, stick to these things and be adaptable in being flexible in changing and adapting to your environment and then moving forward. But it's all about progression. It's not about hanging to a certain thing, hanging to a certain person, hanging to a certain event. Just move forward and continue. And that's how we become better human beings,
Yes.
better versions of ourselves, and be more aware of ourselves. And that would be my general last quote for anyone who would be listening to. I think that may also sum up everything which we talked about. That don't lose hope and don't lose the faith
Never.
within yourself.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what it comes down to.
Yes. Yes. And you can't give away what you don't have.
No.
So collect all that empathy, compassion in you, so that then you can distribute it. If you don't have it in the first place, you
That's
can't.
right.
So all those lovely qualities that you mentioned, patience and being human and all, you have to have all that so that you can pass it on to others.
That's right.
Unless you
That's
have
right.
it, how can you give it to anybody?
And we don't just want to live, we want to thrive. It's not about just living.
Yes,
It's
we
about
want
thriving.
to live. Yeah, we don't just want to exist. I
No.
mean, everybody exists, but some of us tend to live. And
Live and thrive.
living is all giving. I mean, your post today on kindness was lovely in the morning, I saw, and I was tempted to write that what you mentioned was that when you are kind to others, you gain more than what you give. It comes back manifold. I mean, just a little kindness shown to somebody comes back to you, bounce back on you in a very, very big way.
That's right.
So actually, you're not giving, you are receiving by
Yes.
being kind.
And you're receiving the feeling as well. That's what I wanted to emphasize, that even if we don't think about anything else, the joy which it gives us,
yes,
and
yes,
the clarity which it gives us,
yes,
that's no money or fame in the
absolutely.
world
You're
can buy.
actually reinforcing your mind.
Yeah.
You send a reminder today. It's we all know. We all know, we were taught in schools that be kind, but then we often have to tell each other, remind them at the right time to continue being kind.
That's right.
You are kind, let's accept it. Who doesn't want to be kind? We all want to. It's very human to be kind.
That's right.
But we have to be told. It's like, you've been driving for 30 years or 20 years, but still your parents say, drive carefully.
Yeah.
Nothing to get offended.
No.
It's their love for you that they say, okay, drive carefully. My dad still tells me, drive carefully. When you reach home, give me a call. Now, how to tell it that I've been driving for 30 years and I know my way. So, but then that's
the beauty about that.
the way of life. Yeah, of course, and accept it with grace.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful, lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shafaq. And you are a lovely person, and I feel privileged having met you today face to face. And though I see your podcast and I've seen you before, but nothing like today, it's just one-on-one.
Thank you. No, it's been a delight meeting you, and I surely will speak to you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you, and look after yourself. Yeah.
Thank you as well. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.